Welcome to One.
Hi, I'm Alison Hall Kibbe. I'm a third-year PhD student in African American Studies and American Studies, and my expected graduation is 2024. These are segments from a performance I did in August 2018 at Alternate Roots Week. Alternate Roots is a social justice and arts organization throughout the southern United States. And this performance was a work in progress showing of my piece Bodies in Question, which is a performance project that looks at my family's history of migration between Jamaica, Panama, Cuba, and the United States. And it incorporates pieces of oral histories that have been conducted with various family members, my own writing and poetry, movement, music, and family videos and photos. This body contains questions, pregnant pauses, quizzical stares. This body contains water, deep currents, storms, and waves, bodies sinking to the bottom.
Can you tell us how you became involved with dance?
So I've danced from a really young age. My mother danced also, and she just really encouraged me and my other siblings in the arts in lots of ways, and had the opportunity in middle and high school to kind of develop more within a program within my school, Carolina Friends School, and do choreographic work. And so from a young age, that dance program was integrated with my academic studies and with also my sense of activism. So kind of the ways that we were thinking about dance. My undergraduate thesis, which was based on research I did in Bahia, Brazil, looked at Afro-Brazilian movement traditions, particularly samba and capoeira, and the participation of Afro-Brazilian women in these traditions and sort of how and what they meant in terms of racial, gender, sexual identity, and how they related to social movements. In my undergraduate research, I was thinking about how this particular samba tradition became more important because a community had been displaced from their land. And so this Quilombo or Maroon community that had been displaced, the samba tradition became the way that they were able to continue their sense of identity and sense of place, even in displacement. There's a line in the Bodies in Question that says, "I come from people who keep moving." And so I think in my own sense, in my own history, I think about how has movement kind of shaped even who I am and who my family thinks we are, as much as any particular place, just that sense of continual movement.
What brought you to this particular program at Yale?
Actually, the performance, I had been working on this project, Bodies in Question, for about 3 or 4 years, from kind of just pieces of poetry I'd been writing about myself and about my family's history, and it sort of kind of grew and kept snowballing into a bigger project. And I eventually went to Cuba, where I was doing research on Jamaican migration to Cuba. Yale and the American Studies and African American Studies department seemed like I would really get a strong background and be a part of a strong Black studies community, and also in American Studies, which is really, as I've learned more and more here, so invested in kind of critical interventions, invested in sort of envisioning different kinds of futures, that because they're both interdisciplinary programs, I have a lot of freedom to think about how do I move through the PhD process.
What collaborations and interdisciplinary work have you found space for in your program?
At this point, I've just finished my first 2 years of my PhD program, which are the years of coursework. So in that time, it's also been learning how to be at Yale and what it means to be in New Haven and build new relationships. But some of the ways that I've started to do that and kind of feel like I've started to get some roots into the ground. One are that within our department at our last year's, we had a symposium of presenting work, and I was able to present a performative talk that was part performance and part scholarship, part of my research, and they were really open to kind of using that format. And then this year, by participating in the dance lab, that's been a really great way to connect with other folks who are engaged in dance. I'm part of a research collaborative. We call it the Embodied Research Collective, which is faculty, including Amy Meredith Cox and Emily Coates and other graduate and undergraduate students who are really engaged in questions of the body. And then I've taught some dance classes through the funk movement medicine Professor Amy Meredith Cox started, as well as then teaching my own version of that class, which engages my research on Cuban funk music and artissima funk. So it was another way for me to engage that music. And I guess lastly, through the Caribbean Studies Working Group, have a speaker series, and we were supposed to bring in 3, but because of COVID, we were able to bring in 2, and we hope our last speaker will come in spring of 2021. And the series was called Embodied Interventions, and it brought in Caribbean studies scholars who all work in critical dance studies, from Trinidadian carnival to Haitian voodoo dance practices and Cuban rumba. And so there's a number of ways I'm thinking about that. One is sort of thinking about the family album as a way that other people's stories can be a part of that. And so the family album is something like, what does it mean to perform a family album? And so there's a number of ways I'm trying to sort of build connections, hopefully with people, undergraduates, with other graduate students, with folks in the Yale School of Drama. And would love to think about a way that there can be a public performance that's both ensemble and maybe also more installation based and experience. And so that's sort of where I'm thinking, and now maybe wondering what the virtual or digital possibilities are depending on what life looks like over the next year or so.